Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another new video series here. For those who've been with the channel for a little while now, you may remember about 2 years ago, I started reviewing a series of films from this little hammer set here that I'd picked up. I did one video a week, as well as like an overall wrap-up. After that, I picked up some other Hammer films such as Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy, and as well as like a few one-offs that were pretty highly rated to kind of check out as well. So, in the same spirit of that video series, and since a lot of people seem to really enjoy them, I figured what's next? Well, I was actually gifted this set here. I got this one for Christmas, and it seems like the right set to dive into next. So this is a collection of films of Elvira's movie Macabre that she covered in 2010 when she had tried to bring the movie Macabre back. Now it only lasted a single season, but I hadn't been able to get around to actually seeing that season. This was in the days before streaming had really taken off, so it was difficult for me to track down where I could even check it out, and kind of never really got around to it. Now in this set we have 28 films. There's only about maybe 2 or 3 of them that I'd seen previously, so that makes for 28 videos plus an overall wrap-up one at the end. So I'm hoping this will carry me through for the next few months. So in this initial entry, the format that I want to do is basically to review the film first off, see how this film is actually covered, and then do a review of her content, even though it might end up being brief, depending on how much detail she went into. And then like the Hammer titles, I'll do a video for each one. Even if I ended up not really caring for the movie, I'll see if there's some silver lining or something that I enjoyed about the overall presentation. So, who knows what to expect? And for this initial entry, I'm going to be covering how she presented Night of the Living Dead from 1968, which of course I have seen this one. I've seen it before, but it'd been quite a while since I'd really sat down to watch it and pay attention to it the whole way through, and I really enjoyed this one. Now, of course, for anybody who's not familiar, here's a quick synopsis, which states, a ragtag group of Pennsylvanians barricade themselves in an old farmhouse to remain safe from a horde of flesh-eating ghouls that are ravaging the northeast of the United States. So, also for those unfamiliar, this is cited as kind of being the first zombie film as we know them today. Even though the term zombie I don't believe was even used in this film, they were just called ghouls, as the synopsis says. And they didn't specifically eat brains, that's another trope, as well as many others that just kind of were built upon the zombie idea later on. And, while there were also those early and often revisited, kind of slow and lumbering zombies in this one. Not like the really angry, sprinters that we've seen in some later films, or other films that were kind of inspired by zombie outbreaks, like ones that have the rage virus or something like World War Z. So we get this slow, lumbering, creeping in, and this works really great as things start out in this cemetery, and as night falls we spot our first of these reanimated corpses. What's interesting in viewing this film these days is remembering kind of how the fact that it had been over 50 years since this film had been released. I believe we're at 56 years now, if my math is correct. So over half a century. So at the time of this film, it was unheard of as far as its style. With the violence and especially the gore, it's sparse and tame by today's standards. It was definitely very shocking back then. Not only that, but we also have an African-American lead in this, Dwayne Jones. He's the heroic lead, and that was also seen as pretty controversial back then. Apparently the design of this character, he wasn't even written that way. It just so happened that Dwayne was the best audition, so he got the role and did a great job with it. So I had to kind of put myself in the mindset of what the world of horror was like back then to really take all of this in and really kind of get a hold of what it was like. Now, part of me feels that what really makes this film work is that suspense and mystery. They're not really sure what's going on, how to survive. And so along with this music track that is barely existing for much of the film. So we have lots of these stretches of silence, which get to be a bit echoey by today's standards. It almost feels more like a stage play is being put on, and some of these interior, these inside shots where we only have the actors there to convey with their dialogue and their reactions and how they present everything, what's really going on, rather than score, gore, and violence, really pulling us along with it. So they have to present everything, and most of this could work simply as a stage play, all those interior shots. Now when the music does start to come into it, it's usually when there's a lot going on, a lot more action and violence going on, so it kind of amplifies those events and makes them a bit more frightening. And while of course this film was not in 4K color with hyper realistic effects and gore and violence, it pulled me in as like this late night, quiet, suspenseful kind of film that I can see why not only is it a classic and still holds up, but why so many people when they check it out for the first time nowadays still really enjoy it. So now let's get on to Elvira herself, the Mistress of the Dark. Now I remember her older show, and I even have a few of the old DVDs here. I believe I have 3 or 6 episodes. I forget how she was kind of dividing those up at the time. And she would often give an intro and an outro, plus she would have some moments in between as she kind of ushers us inside, like in and out of different commercial breaks. Now she has the same format here, however we get more within those breaks, and even these brief like bubble pop-ups where she'll pop in with some snarky remarks here and there as part of her humor, and even this occasional cut-in where they'll show a quick clip of her kind of put into the film. Now she plays a theme throughout, her hosting, and honestly, the only thing that really tells me that this is something newer and not one of those really old episodes is, the quality being a little bit higher, and of course those different bubble pop-ups that I don't remember seeing in the original show, but it's been a long time since I watched any of those episodes. So it's going to be really interesting to see how future episodes, come across, especially for films which may not be as good as Night of the Living Dead. Some of those that have a little bit more issues or a little bit more B-movie, and we'll give her more to kind of make fun of along the way. Now, from a technical aspect, and the packaging aspect, this is great. We have a very simple little coffin container here. We've got this little fold out here that shows a little bit of information about what these different titles are, and then just simply a stack of 14 discs. So we basically do 2 movies per disc, which keeps the quality relatively high compared to some other horror sets that I've seen where they'll try to shove 3 or 4 movies onto one disc and the quality really suffers from that. And while it's not Blu-ray quality, it's just DVD, considering the source movies, it's really not an issue. And it makes these films and their presentation, even more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out my first video in this Elvira series, Elvira Presents, as she does with her movie Macabre. I'm hoping to put out one each week, usually around the same time and same day if possible, all throughout this set. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to get notifications from when I put up that new content. Also, as for this set, it's currently available on DVD, as I have here, which you can find at various sites such as Amazon. But I believe this 2010 season may also be available on Peacock and possibly Shout TV, if I remember correctly, at the time of this video. So look up those options if interested. Anyways, that's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming by and sticking around to the end, as it really does help out quite a bit. As I said also about just liking and subscribing and so forth. Thanks for coming by, and I will see you in the next one.